Cloud data protection. Secure your private information with these 10 tips. Businesses and people nowadays are increasingly using the cloud, often without even realizing they're doing so. This lack of awareness is putting millions of people at risk, as they may not always be protected as they should. Implement today these 10 tips to secure your private data in the cloud. Remember that you should always alert the provider and change your password and verification protocols if you suspect your account has been compromised. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Sweetie QA Show. We enjoy having you with us today. I'm doing fantastic, if you were to ask me. And if you are doing as great as I am, please go grab a cup of coffee or tea. That's great. Today I want to talk to you about 10 tips that will allow you to secure your private information in the cloud. Number one, never share personal information. Now, some of your personal information might be a little innocuous. You might think that, oh yeah, things like your phone number or your address. But check this out. If this falls into the wrong hands, this could leave your identity unprotected, right? So don't ever give publicly your birth date, your mother's maiden name, right? Sometimes people ask these things to verify your identity. You should give it when necessary. And even if you trust someone, never give them the last 4 digits of your social security number. Okay, now the thing here is that some cloud providers will allow you to choose your own questions to answer for verification. And if you have that option, it's very important to use questions and answers that you can easily remember and that most people wouldn't easily be able to learn about you, such as an embarrassing childhood nickname or where you went on the first date. All right, it's very important to never share personal information. Only share what is allowed, what you're comfortable sharing. Number 2, avoid storing sensitive data. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't know about. I mean, you have millions of Americans and billions of people and tens of millions of people worldwide are still not cognizant of. Avoid storing sensitive data. Now, the cloud is cheap. It's sometimes free, right? You have Google Drive, you have Microsoft OneDrive, you have all those sort of drive platforms for individuals. Now, in the B2B market for businesses, you have AWS, the Amazon Web Services is a biggie. But for personal, which is what we're talking about here today, you want to avoid storing sensitive information on the cloud, right? I'm talking about your social security number, copies of your IDs, or important financial statements, even the old ones. As a matter of fact, we have a show about the financial documents you should keep forever. So you want to double check that one and see how this can help you. But you want to consider what kind of other information someone could get their hands on. So never keep very sexy pictures, intimate interactions with your partners in the cloud. And as a matter of fact, if you're sensitive about items such as diet progress pictures or fitness progress pictures, or weight loss progress pictures or videos, avoid posting those as well. Right? We've heard in the news a lot of instances where celebrities have seen their intimate interactions being shown on the cloud, being shown on the internet, and you don't want that. Number 3, set up your privacy settings. This is very important. As soon as you register with a cloud service provider, you want to automatically configure your privacy settings. And you do this because you want to make sure you're not sharing private information via the apps you connect to your service provider. A lot of folks sort of forget about that. You want to determine, and this is very important, you want to determine how long the service stores your data and which types of information it can pull from your devices or apps, right? And another thing you want to pay attention to is to check and reconfigure every few weeks to ensure they remain safe. And this is basically after the initial setup of your privacy settings. All right, so the first 3 tips here: never share personal information. Number 2, avoid storing sensitive data. 3, set up your privacy settings. I will be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweaty Kiwi. Please, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. We will really appreciate it. Please just smash the like button, share this content, and comment below. We believe we're doing a lot of service to the whole community here. You know, a lot of folks nowadays, if not most Americans and most people in developed worlds, have their data stored on cloud in any way, shape, or form. So it is important to secure that private information using any of our tips, if not all of them. Number 4, use two-factor authentication. Now, whenever a provider gives you that option, please use it. A two-factor authentication. That means that anyone who signs into your account will need information in addition to your password. Isn't that beautiful, right? Because, you know, let's say somebody just steals, you have a hacker that is able to get your password, but if they don't have the second type of info, let's say your phone number or anything, or your PIN number or whatever, they can't log into the account. So that's perfect. So common methods of authentication include: you can answer a secret question, you can provide a personal PIN number, or you can input a code that the cloud provider emails or texts to you. This is really great. Now, in some very cases, the cloud provider will ask you to download an authenticator app, right? Now, remember that not all accounts will automatically ask you to set up a secondary identifier. But again, depending upon the provider you have, be sure to check your settings to see if the option is available. Number 5, use robust anti-malware software. Now, we all know that the internet rolls over the cloud, right? So your data is transferred over the internet to the cloud of your provider. So it is important that you have strong antivirus and anti-malware protection on any device you use, or any cloud using device, right? It could be a tablet, smartphone, laptop, your TV. And what you want to do is that you want to have an anti-malware program that blocks suspicious URLs and downloads, right? And this kind of program also is good because it allows you to perform remote wipe, backups, and device location services. Number 6, use a cloud service that encrypts. It's very important to have, encryption these days, because if you want to fend off identity theft, you want to use a cloud service that encrypts your files both in the cloud and on your own computer, so that it is completely invisible to would-be hackers, right? Because encryption ensures that service providers and their service administrators, as well as third parties in this case, don't have access to your private information. That's critical here. Number 7, be cautious when using public Wi-Fi. We've seen this. We've dedicated about a year doing research and reporting on this matter. A lot of folks feel like, free is good. I'm going to a restaurant. I'm going to a shopping mall. I'm going to a hotel. And I have public Wi-Fi. It's open. It's very easy to do. But you can set creative password. You can use firewalls. You can provide antivirus or anti-malware programs. You can do all these things when you use your home's wireless internet connection, right? But if you are in a public setting, a public connection is never safe, because cyber thieves can use these open Wi-Fi connections to steal information when you connect to the spot. So whenever you use the public Wi-Fi, please, you want to check the connection through the business. If this is let's say you are at a restaurant, for instance, and the restaurant gives the public Wi-Fi, you want to verify the connection. Is this safe? And avoid using internet hotspot if you cannot verify their source. Now, one thing that's very important, people forget that cyber thieves or hackers don't even have to be technologically advanced to do so, to steal your data. They just need to sit within 100 feet or 200 feet of you while you use the connection, right? Another way to protect your information is to keep your Wi-Fi feature turned off until you're ready to log in on a verified connection. If possible, use the VPN, a virtual private network, if you're viewing sensitive information in public. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We're still continuing our conversation today about cloud data protection, how to secure your private information with 10 tips. You can feel free to implement any of those 10 tips, or 3 or 4, or all of them, actually. Number 8, create strong passwords. Right, this is very important. Now, when it comes to passwords, it's very tricky, right? You want to have a strong password. You want to have a combo of words, letters, and special characters, but you want to be able to remember those because, the last thing you want is to have a strong password, right? And everybody knows, oh, wow, she got or he got a very wonderful password. But if you can't remember it, then what good is it, right? So it's make sure that you use a password that you can remember. Don't use identified information such as your name, birthday, names of people or pets you're close to, company name, right? And never use one password shorter than 8 characters. And experts will recommend having 15 characters. I personally think that the sweet spot is staying between 10 and 12 characters. And again, as I said earlier, you want to have both capital and lowercase letters, as well as numbers and symbols, what people call special characters. Another thing you want to do is updating your passwords regularly and avoid actually using the same password for multiple accounts. Number 9, read and understand the user agreements. A lot of folks, 90% of folks don't read user agreements, right? It's the same thing as contracts, right? Terms of service, user agreements, all these things are interchangeable. The words are the same. They mean the same thing. If you can, especially when it comes to the cloud service you're about to sign, please read the user agreement completely. Why? Because God forbid something happens to you, your data is compromised. You might actually end up in a lot of stuff, dirty stuff, or shitty stuff for years. So it's worth taking the time to read it. Why? Because the user agreements include vital information that talks about how the service protects your information, and it also gives you that user agreement gives you permission to question the provider, because the provider, believe it or not, can use or sell your info in any way, shape, or form. So make sure that whenever you want to sign up with anything, an app or a cloud service provider, make sure that you read the user agreements. Number 10, always install updates to your operating system. Right, like those sort of annoying update alerts that you get every month or every 2 months or every quarter from Microsoft or from Apple. Those are important. You want to install all updates as soon as possible. The reason being is that those updates are loaded with tools that allow you to fix bugs found in the system. And if you don't fix those bugs, you are at risk. So you don't want to ignore them, because you set yourself up for great inconveniences, and nobody wants that, right? So very important, your operating system should be updated so that you can ensure the protection of your computer and information. All right, folks, thank you so much for listening to me today. Let me quickly recap today's conversation. We talked about cloud data protection, how to secure your private information with 10 wonderful tips. And here they are. Never share personal information. Avoid storing sensitive data. Set up your privacy settings properly. Use two-factor authentication. Use robust anti-malware software. Use a cloud service that encrypts. Be cautious when using public Wi-Fi. Create strong passwords. Read and understand the user agreements. And number 10, last but not the least, install updates to your operating system. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for your attention today. And until then, stay marvelous.